We're joined once again by Bob Rae, former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations. Thanks for living up to your promise to come back. It's great to have you at the end of the week. And that's sort of where I want to start, is just an overview of what we've heard since Monday. U.S. President Donald Trump has ramped up these threats towards Greenland since Saturday's strikes on Venezuela. On Monday, the State Department posted this photo on X with the caption, "This is our hemisphere." On Wednesday, the White House did not rule out using military force once again on Greenland. And then the same day, the president himself posted on Truth Social, "I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them." So based on everything we've seen and heard this week, how should we interpret Trump's endgame here?
Well, it's unpredictable, but actually, in the clip you just showed from Vice President Vance, he did. There was an if that started the sentence, which means the United States wants to talk to NATO and to Denmark and to other countries about, well, what are you prepared to increase the level of security for Greenland? And that's a different conversation. That's a completely different conversation. And quite honestly, that's a conversation that can be held within NATO. It can be held with the Europeans. It can be held with Canada. I mean, when you look at the border of Greenland and where Greenland is, just to remind everybody, it's right next to Canada. We actually had an argument with Denmark about a particular island, right, just off the coast of Greenland and off the coast of Ellesmere Island, and said, "Well, whose is it?" We said it's ours. They said, "No, it's ours." And of course, we divided it down the middle. That was the compromise. Mm-hmm. So the answer is, this is all very in your face, but at some point there has to be a conversation. And Secretary Rubio was talking with the Danish government today, we understand. And presumably that's going to tell us, what is this really all about? What actually are we talking about here? And, you know, as for President Trump's comment, NATO invoked Article 5, which is an attack on one is an attack on all, mm-hmm, after 9/11. And, you know, Canadian troops went to Afghanistan, and we sacrificed over 150 people died in Afghanistan with the purpose of advancing our security interests. I mean, as it turned out, not a great success, of course. But the idea somehow that NATO is not there for the United States is, as a member state of NATO, Canada, it's deeply offensive to say, you know, you're not going to be there for us. I mean, that is the kind of comment that ignores our human experience. And I think the president needs to think again about that and about how he looks at these things. We have all been there for each other. Canada was in World War I for 3 years without the United States. We were in World War II for 2 years without the United States. We were there with the United States in Korea. We have worked hard together. The notion somehow that we're not there for the U.S. it's not just that it's offensive, it's also just shows a complete absence of a lack of understanding of what it means to be in an alliance and how this alliance works.
Well, that's a really good point you bring up. There are 32 countries in total that are part of NATO right now. The alliance, most people know, was formed after the Second World War, and based on the principle, as you mentioned, Article 5, an attack on one member is an attack on all. If the United States wants to militarily take over Greenland, which could be then interpreted as an attack on one, what does that say to the non-member states about the protections, about the power of NATO? Does it dissolve that?
Well, I hate to be sound like a politician, but because I'm not one anymore, though it's pretty hard to lose your practice. Yeah, I think it's, rather than speculate about is this going to be military, I think the challenge we have with the U.S. at the moment, and with the Trump administration, is that every adventure that they want to go on has two elements to it. One is military. The other one is money. It's the economics. It's taking something over in another way. It's running the oil industry. It's creating condos in Gaza. Whatever it is, it's connected to that side of the equation. And I think in Greenland, we all have to ask the Americans, what is this really all about? You have the right to invest in Greenland. We all have the right to invest in Greenland, according to the laws of Greenland, the laws of Denmark, because it's a part of another sovereign country. If it's about security, then let's talk about security. But the notion somehow that everybody just falls in, and that if you don't do it this way, we'll do it the other way. I mean, it sounds. Let's get the conversation back in the realm of diplomacy rather than a gangster movie, and I think that's really where we have to go. I mean, this talk, if you don't do this, we'll do that. You just say, look, don't make threats. Let's just figure out what it is you're really worried about. So far as I know, the American ambassador to NATO has never said, let's have a conversation about the security for Greenland. Nobody's ever said that. And if they have, I haven't heard about it, and it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But let's have that conversation.
On Monday, you said that you are, quote, absolutely convinced Trump wants Canada to be part of the United States. So if, in whichever scenario, through talks or military actions, Trump ends up with a dominant control in Greenland, where does that leave the protection that NATO provides us? Or what is your concern at the end of this week, given everything you've seen since the weekend before?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say is I think we've all learned about the unpredictability of the rhetoric from the Americans. One day they'll send in, Vice President Vance. The next day it'll be Secretary Rubio. It'll be somebody else who will be carrying the water. And some days it's the president. But usually when the president makes these comments, they're made while he's walking off somewhere, or he's in the back of a plane or something. It's not exactly what you'd say is this is the considered policy of the United States. Or you get that from Stephen Miller or somebody else. You don't know whether is that the final answer. And my view is it's never the final answer. In Canada's case, we need a negotiation with the United States on trade and security and other issues. We're having those discussions, sort of, but not formally yet. We'll get there. And I think it's important for everybody to just understand we're going through this. I mean, policy leaders, the Prime Minister himself, everybody is watching this the same way you're all watching it. People asking, what does that mean? I said, I don't know. What do you think? What we do know is some of the patterns that in the administration is they'll say something and get everybody's attention. And then what they really say is, well, actually what we want is a conversation. In the case of Venezuela, they didn't say anything. They just did it. But if you said to me now on this Friday, after 5 days, what is the American plan for Venezuela? The answer is, I don't know. Secondly, I'm not sure they know. It doesn't look like it. And third, I guess when they want our help, they'll tell us. Not that we're going to help them in that regard. But it is a very different way of doing business, doing politics, doing government. Nobody's ever experienced anything quite like this.
The presumptive rules that everybody operated under, including people like yourself, have seemed to have vanished in this start to 2026. And once again, Mr. Ray, time is our enemy here. So we're going to end our conversation, but I do thank you for coming back and always appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good to talk to you.